Designate your passenger as your designated texter. Allow them to access your phone to respond to calls or messages. Do not engage in social media scrolling or messaging while driving. Are you struggling not to text and drive? Activate your phone's Do Not Disturb feature or put your cell phone in the trunk, the glove box, or the back seat of your vehicle until you arrive at your destination. Remember, the Elgin Police are conducting directed patrols to enforce distracted driving violations. Just drive and stay safe. A message from our friends at the Elgin Police Department and your friends here at WRMN AM 1410 and 96.7 FM.
You're listening to On the Rise with your hosts, Mike Napolitano and Derek Geyer on AM 1410 WRMN.
Thank you, Cambria. We appreciate you coming in and doing that. I am your host, Derek Geyer, alongside the coached out Mike Napolitano. How the hell you doing, Mike?
How are you doing, my friend? I am here today to talk about some Chicago sports and let everybody know that I've got a new look going on.
You definitely have a new look going on. Seems as though you are, well, seems as though all the Chicago, well, the Blackhawks and Hawks, well, Blackhawks and Hawks are the same thing. Sox threw up all over you.
Yes, and I threw up all over myself when I saw the entire slate of Chicago sports. So we're going to be talking a lot about that today.
Yes, we're definitely going to be talking about that. But before we get into that, we're going to wrap up our coverage of the Illinois High School Football Championships. And last week, we had, for the Class A High School Championship football, we had Loyola Academy coming out on top of Elmhurst York, 35-14. And in that game, Loyola's quarterback, Ryan Fitzgerald, finished with a 12 for 21 with 160 yards passing and 3 TDs to lead Loyola over Elmhurst York. Drew McPherson also put in 195 total yards with 3 TDs as well. From Elmhurst York, quarterback Bruno Massell rushed for 148 yards and a TD on 17 carries and finished 6 for 18 with 82 passing yards.
And then we move over to the Class A championship. That was Mount Carmel versus Batavia.
7A.
7A. Did I just say 7? Mount Carmel took that one 55-34. Chicago Mount Carmel set the all-time state record for football state championships, winning its 16th with a victory in the Class A title game on Saturday. Quarterback Jack Elliott went 16 for 26 with 301 passing yards and 6 touchdowns, setting a 7A title game mark. The 6 touchdown passes. He also added 118 rushing yards and a touchdown himself. Batavia's quarterback Michael Vander set 7A marks for pass completions with 29 and pass yardage with 390. Receiver Brett Berggren also set a mark with 191 receiving yards for the Bulldogs, 12-2.
And then we're moving on to Class 6A, where East St. Louis defeated Geneva 48-28. Laverius Woods of East St. Louis ran for 113 yards and had 3 TDs on 10 carries. Then the Flyers quarterback, which is also from East St. Louis, Kendrick Lyons, threw for 225 yards and had 2 scores to sophomore Ronnie Gomiller with 5 catches and 128 yards. Geneva QB Anthony Cahino was 20 for 39 with 323 yards and 3 TDs. His top targets were seniors Talon Taylor with 8 catches, 116 yards and a TD, and Finnegan Wepner with 6 catches for 111 yards and 1 tutty.
In the Class 5A championship, you had Nazareth Academy going up against Joliet Catholic. Nazareth came out on top 29-27. Nazareth won its 3rd consecutive state championship, defeating state power Joliet Catholic to win that one on Saturday, their 6th since 2014. All-State quarterback Logan Malachuk led the way for Naz, throwing 336 yards and had 4 touchdowns. 7 receivers had catches, led by Trenton Walker's 122 yards and 2 touchdowns on 4 grabs. Larry Stringham, 148 yards on 23 carries, and Nate Magrini, 125 yards, a touchdown, and 21 carries, led the rushing for Joliet Catholic, a perennial power playing in its 21st state title game.
And then for Class 4A, we had DePaul College Prep 40 over Mount Zion 6. So DePaul College Prep defeated Mount Zion 40-6. This is the first championship for DePaul since they changed over from Gordon Tech way back in 1980. DePaul's Nick Martinez had 100 yards rushing and 3 TDs on 19 carries. Quarterback Juju Rodriguez added 47 yards and a score. He also threw for 68 yards and a tutty. Nicholas Hathcote added 91 rushing yards and a TD. Illini commit Braden Trimble had 40 yards on 12 touches, including a 4-yard touchdown reception. And, well, because the score was such a blowout, wasn't really much going on for Mount Zion, but Mount Zion was making its first state championship game appearance in that one.
Then the Class 3A matchup was Montini versus Monticello. This was another blowout like the last one. 49-8. Montini comes away with the victory. Their senior running back, Jeremiah Peterson, rushed for 183 yards and 2 touchdowns on 14 touches, while junior wideout CJ Hawkins had 123 yards, caught 2 long touchdowns from QB Israel Abrams, who finished 10 for 16 with 225 yards and 3 touchdowns. Carter Foreman had 9 receptions for 110 yards and the lone touchdown for Monticello, which was back in the finals for the first time since its 3A title in 2018. Monticello QB Ike Young, an Illinois baseball recruit, was held to 92 passing yards and 2 rushing yards on 9 carries in the first half. He came in as a 3,000-yard passer and 100,000.
That'd be impressive.
1,000-yard rusher.
All right, moving on to Class 2A. We had Chicago Christian going up against Maroa Forsyth. Chicago Christian came out on top, 47-0 over Forsyth. Kenny Yeager led the way for Chicago Christian, rushing for 223 yards and a touchdown. Quarterback Christian Flutman added 86 rushing yards and 3 scores. He also was 12 for 16 passing for 132 yards, including a 59-yard tutty to Nico Griggs. Sorry, Nico. And a 30-yard TD to Jared Hall. Maroa earned its 9th runner-up finish to go with titles in 2006 and 2012.
And last but not least, you had the Class 1A championship. That was Belleville Atloff and Lena Winslow. That was a 57-14 final in favor of Belleville. All-State running back Dier Hill ran for a record 438 yards and 6 touchdowns on 32 carries for the Crusaders, who were 14-0. They controlled much of the game on a cold and snowy morning. He added an 80-yard touchdown reception. That was Dier Hill. His rushing total is a Class 1A championship game record, and his 46 points, 46 of those 57 points, are an all-class record. Offensive line of Cam Golden, Brock Rogers, Logan Davis, Jordan Wright, and Patton Leib averages nearly 6'4", 300 pounds. Adloff ran for 492 yards overall, including 230 in the first half.
Maybe we, geez, excuse me.
Are you awake over there?
No, I seem to have some sort of frog in my throat. But anyway, maybe we could get those boys to anchor the offensive line for the Chicago Bears?
Tell me about it, my friends. We really need something on that offensive line for Caleb. The guy needs some help.
Yeah.
But last but not least, Alec Schlittling rushed 129 yards in the loss for Lana Winslow. So that wraps up your high school football here in Illinois. It was a fun season. Derek and I are excited to be able to cover some of this stuff. And I know WRMN goes out and covers a little bit of the actual games play-by-play. And then eventually throughout the next year, we'll be covering more of that. I've done, as we talked on the show last week with Aaron Schellen. Yeah, Nihil, not only with Stream Sports Midwest do we do all of the Northern Illinois Hockey League games, but we also cover West Aurora in the springtime. So we get a chance to see some high school action, whether that's softball, baseball. We've done badminton as well, and then also soccer. So
maybe lacrosse in there too?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, if there's springtime lacrosse going on. I've never broadcasted lacrosse. I'd have to look up or refresh myself on some of those intricate rules compared to like either. It's a mix of like football, soccer, and hockey. So
this is true.
Should be kind of in my wheelhouse, but
yeah, it should be.
Until next football season, everyone.
Yes.
And that goes for professional side of things too, but we'll get there.
But yeah, speaking of professional football, if you could really call it this, we talked about last week how Matt Eberflus got let go on Black Friday.
Oh boy, my friends.
Well, there was a press conference that they held on Monday.
Are we jumping right into this? I thought we were saving it for...
Yeah, we were going to save it. Well, I wanted to whet the appetite a little bit.
Okay, my friends.
So, yes, toss those glasses back on. This is what...
I don't exactly have the Chicagoan-style glasses. This will have to do.
This is what Kevin Warren had to say.
We just want to spend a couple moments today to talk through some of the issues that we face. One, I remain grateful and energized to lead the Chicago Bears. When I started this journey 20 months ago, I knew there would be days like this that would be challenging. That's part of building a world-class franchise. But one good thing about challenging times, it allows people around you, it allows each one of us to become strong and stronger, to become committed, to become dedicated, to become vibrant, to really understand what it means when we talk about having character and integrity. My goal still remains is to make sure we build an organization that can have continued success both on and off the field. Now is that time. Now is the opportunity.
Can you believe the hot air that is coming out of his mouth right there?
Was that courtesy of Chicago Bears themselves?
I'm sorry. That was courtesy of Fox. 32.
I don't mean to be disrespectful to Kevin Warren, and it's not a direct shot at him when I make those gestures. If you're listening, I was mouthing along as that quote was being recapped there on the clip, but I don't understand how they can go on, and we're going to break this down much later and get deeper into this, but I just don't understand how they can go on just touting this nonsense to the fans and how the fans can still just eat this garbage up. That's what it is. It's garbage. It's just empty promises and as you said, hot air. These words mean nothing to me as a Chicago fan at this point, and it shouldn't mean anything to you either out there. I mean, you've seen enough Bears football at this point, even if you've just flip the TV on for 2 minutes to understand that none of this is going anywhere and it's not acceptable. What were your thoughts on it?
Kimbria?
Yeah.
Do you have anything?
I think that he did what he felt he needed to do and say in order to keep the motivation and encouragement to keep him along and to keep his job. Of course, when you know you're about to lose your job, you're going to be like, no, guys, we just need more time, right? But at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie, right?
No.
The team has not performed at any level of greatness. So,
I got to say, Kimbria, you handled that very well, much better than Matt Eberflus did in calling timeouts and managing the game, because when Mike tossed it to you, you had the look of, oh, I need to say something. And now all of a sudden, but you held yourself with composure, which is a hell of a lot more than I could say for the coaching staff.
Well, I figured we'd get our guest in here as we recapped high school football and stuff. But IMS graduate now?
Not graduate yet. I have 4 more weeks before I graduate.
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Well, that's exciting.
We'll group you in the alumni group with us. So, but yeah, pleasure to have you here. I know you did our sideline broadcast, camera work for the Schaumburg Hockey League.
I did, yes.
I haven't even really prefaced much here on the show. I run the league, basically. But we'll get to that. It's during summer.
You pat yourself on the enough on the back the way it is.
What were you about to say?
You pat yourself enough on the back with all the things that you do. And
I don't know what you're talking about, my friend. She was talking about people losing jobs, and that is all too well the case here in Chicago. So we're going to talk about that a lot later.
Which is kind of wild that he's coming out and Kevin Warren is talking about this, because since 2000, the Chicago Bears have the 10th worst record in the league, with 188 wins to 220 losses. That is 32 games under 500.
It's unacceptable, my friend.
They've only made the playoffs in 4 of those years. And it's just absolutely amazing. Energized, the fans. Kevin, stop talking about things that you have absolutely no clue about. Go ahead, Mike.
I have more that I want to dive into with him, and it goes along with some of the other clips that you pulled, because as I listened to each part that you pulled from that press conference, it just made me more and more upset because it was more and more contradictory. But I'm going to save that till we get to those clips and we get Marcus in the building here and we get his thoughts as well, as he is our Bears expert. Not that we can't hold our own at this point. I mean, I think I'm pretty sure you could have like a Chihuahua run this team at this point.
I thought about applying for the job.
Yeah, right? I mean, like, I could do a better job right now than the entire Bears front office, I think.
Hey, I play Madden on.
I was just about to say us couch quarterbacks, but no, I mean, it's true. Like, okay, if you've seen the new Deadpool and Wolverine movie, you know the little dog with the tongue out of his mouth and the cross, like that dog could probably do a better job of running the Bears. Like, it's not this hard. If everybody in Chicago is screaming what to do, like, do it. Now there is, and other sports have brought this up, especially the White Sox this year. Oh, don't even get me started. But the Blackhawks as well. You don't want to just cave to whatever the fans are saying and let the fans completely run the team. But when enough of them are saying the same thing repetitively, and you're seeing the lack of those results in game, and it is because of those specific issues, it's not rocket science.
No.
Change it.
It's been broken for so long. They don't know what change is. This is the first time in their franchise that they've actually ever fired 2 coaches in the middle of a season.
Yeah, a head coach at least. I would say offensive
coordinator,
coach,
fired
offensive coordinator,
whatever the hell his name is. I want to black it out from my memory. And then Coach Eberflühl.
What a promotion week for Thomas Brown.
Yeah, no kidding. I
mean, hey, welcome aboard. Let's throw you, not that he wasn't already a part of the organization, but welcome aboard. Let's throw you in the deep end. And we said it was 20 feet deep after you went off that diving board. We lied. It's 100 feet deep.
Might as well be the Manchurian. No, I was thinking the abyss, the great big trench.
Right.
The Mariana Trench.
Yeah. I would go with the Grand Canyon, considering if you were to jump off that, it's very similar to being in this Bears situation, because
3 miles deep.
There's not enough water at the bottom to save you from imminent death.
No, not at all. And here's another clip from that press conference.
National Football League, I would argue we have the greatest fans in all of professional sports. And I made it clear in my introductory press conference, we will build a champion on the field. We'll build a champion in the community. We'll build a world-class stadium. Nothing has changed. We are not going to waver from that.
You're damn right you have the best fans in the world, because the fact that they are even still behind this team is incredible. It's unbelievable There are teams that have a worse record than the Bears, but those teams are either in an established rebuild and not trying to build back up to playoffs or have zero expectations. The fact that the Bears, and I've been saying this every week that we get on this show and we even remotely talk Bears, the fact that the Bears are even giving these fans a hope, not just in the individual games, but season to season. They're not even saying we're going to blow it up, we're going to rebuild it completely. It's laughable at this point. And the fact that he tried to divert the conversation and switch the attention over to the new field, which is just as up in the air as this Bears organization in this roster right now, is just a joke.
You are absolutely right. Friendly neighborhood astronomer coming into our live YouTube chat. They certainly do shovel championship BS.
Oh, absolutely. And championship is a word that should be foreign to Chicagoans at this point. The last championship.
Okay.
The last championship.
¿Por qué? Was ist los?
No sabe que.
Yeah, no. We don't want to get fined in any language.
No. I just said I don't know, but I really don't know. I do know. The last of the major 5 teams, the last championship in this town was the Cubs in 2016. Since then, the Chicago Sky won a championship, and I want to say that was 2019, 2020, somewhere in there.
Sounds about right.
I forget which exact year it was, but it was one of those 2 years. Maybe if it was 2021, and I'm not remembering correctly. But
yeah, and then they blew everything up.
Regardless,
because
I want to say it was during
players
around
and
COVID.
management, screwed things up.
Right.
Seems to be a running theme here in Chicago.
Other than that, okay, I guess the Wolves won a championship in we should know this. We cover them 2021, I believe. I'm getting my years mixed up right now. It was either
about jumping into the deep end.
It was either Sky in 2021 and then Wolves in 2022, or it was Sky in 2020, Wolves in 2021. I'll have to double check that during the intermission here in a moment. But other than that, we had the Kane County Cougars this year. That was great.
That was good. Not exactly a Chicago team, but still close enough.
The Dogs have fought. The Boomers have fought. Oh, the Boomers did win one in 2021.
Yes, they did.
But we have to resort to these minor league teams. To these semi-pro teams.
You mentioned a couple weeks ago that the Red Stars actually made it into
Pro-Am.
Playoffs.
Yeah, but they did the same thing as the Chicago Sky this year and lost their last couple games of the season in order to drop from a solid playoff spot to either completely out of the playoffs like the Sky or the very last playoff spot, and then you're pitted up against the number 1 overall team that goes on to win the championship. I mean, you're not setting yourself up for success in the postseason. Just
no,
like
not at all.
The Bulls.
Yeah, well, we
playing rounds aren't success.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, help him out, Kimmy.
Sorry, my friend. I didn't mean to scare you there.
It's okay.
Yeah, we didn't bring her in to give you mouth to mouth because you're gonna stroke out, Mike.
Listen.
CPR,
This is only meant for helping the coaches get back into their funk here in Chicago.
Yeah.
They need more than that.
And it is so
We're
much
off the rails
fun.
already, and we're not even 30 minutes into the show.
Yeah, well, which is fine because Kimmy's laughter is already infectious, and I'm loving it already. I got to pat myself on the back for bringing her in today. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we're dealing here with Chicago sports. But in the next segment, we'll be moving on to Blackhawks.
Well, my friends, we have Blackhawks, we have Bulls, we have Windy City Bulls, we got Ice Hogs, Wolves, maybe a little bit of Steel.
You gotta stay tuned and join us back with more sports talk on the Rise on WRMN AM 1410.
Oh yeah, off the rails and jeez. You're not whistling Dixie. We're really going a little bit wild here.
Don't you worry, my friend. We're going to take care of you in this next segment.
And by take care of you, he's not talking about sleeping with the fishes.
No,
or giving you
we're
like
not that Italian today, but I do like my beefs.
The ankle waiters here. But I'm your host for On the Rise. I'm Derek Geyer alongside Mike Napolitano. We've got Kimmy Kimbria Hopkins. I want to
Kimmy
give
is
you
fine.
Kimmy's fine.
Yeah.
But you're listening to AM 1410 on The Rise. Back in a minute.
Anderson Japanese Gardens, ranked the highest quality Japanese garden in North America and located right in the heart of Rockford. Their mission is to open minds to a different culture while offering a place of peace and tranquility where one can find healing, renewal, inspiration, and a re-energized soul. A premier destination for corporate functions, special events, weddings, and receptions. For directions, hours, and fees, visit andersongarden.org today.
You never know what or who you'll hear from on the first shift with me, Marky B. Like Tim Skoning, a WRMN news reporter back in the 1960s.
The jingles you all played, they were purchased by Dick Sutter. He was at some radio convention. He came back with this reel. I remember them playing that in the studio. We were so excited. We thought we were network now. And it's the same jingles today.
That's great.
Every time I hear them, I get excited about it.
I'm sure.
It was a lot of fun.
Fun times on the first shift, right here on WRMN, AM 1410 and 96.7 FM.
Are you looking for a dentist near you? Choose the one with the 5-star Google rating, Bender Dental Care in Elgin. We earned that 5-star rating with our super friendly staff, reasonable rates, and outstanding patient care. Dr. Bender provides full-service family dentistry, including tooth-colored fillings and crowns, and no drill, no shot treatment for small cavities, perfect for kids. Choose Google's 5-star dentist close to home, Bender Dental Care in Elgin. We're here for you.
Take a historic walk through the home of America's greatest showman, Al Ringling. Located in Baraboo, Wisconsin, you can view the grand opulence on a guided tour, now hourly starting 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Weekday tours begin on the veranda and on the weekends in the tap room of the Al Ringling Brewery. Behind the mansion, kick back and try a flight of craft beers and dine at this family-friendly stop. Visit alringlingmansion.com for more information.
Let me tell you a story about Bill. Bill was a normal guy in his 50s. He had back surgery about 2 years ago. Bill was in a lot of pain. He dealt with his pain by taking the Percocets his doctor prescribed for him. Bill took more and more and more of them to help with the pain, until one day the prescriptions weren't enough to get rid of Bill's pain. Then one day Bill found someone to help him get rid of the pain with illegal drugs he didn't need a prescription for. Fast forward to today. Bill lost his job and his family. The only thing he does have is his drug dealer. If you know Bill's story and you don't want to end up like Bill, call the Detox and Treatment Helpline right now to get away and get treatment.
800-694-1127. 800-694-1127. 800-694-1127. Call right now. Help is standing by. 800-694-1127.
Twin Gyros, located at 4870 North Harlem Avenue in Harwood Heights, serves traditional gyros as well as its award-winning chicken gyros on a pita. Twin Gyros has a diverse menu that includes barbecue ribs, chicken dinners, Philly cheesesteak sandwiches, cheeseburgers, and Vienna beef hot dogs that have recently been inducted into the Vienna Beef Hot Dog Hall of Fame. Check out the full menu at twinsgyros.com. That's Twin Gyros at 4870 North Harlem Avenue in Harwood Heights, Illinois.
For many years, Italian Pizza Kitchen in Roselle has been serving quality and excellence. Italian Pizza Kitchen is family-owned with experience in preparing authentic Italian cuisine with the freshest, highest quality ingredients since the 50s. Your food is always prepared fresh with the same traditions, recipes, and standards that they've perfected over the years. Italian Pizza Kitchen has a passion for great cuisine and customer service. Visit ItalianPizzaKitchen.com.
You're tuned into On the Rise with Mike Napolitano and Derek Geyer on 1410 AM WRMN.
And you are listening to On the Rise with your host, Derek Geyer, and Mike Napolitano. In studio with us is also Kimbria Hopkins. So, where do you want to go from here, Mike?
Well, we have some Bulls news to recap on the week. The Bulls started off with a game last Monday against the Brooklyn Nets, who were 9-12 coming into this game, but the Bulls, they were 8-13. So a win for the Bulls would tie them with the Nets in this Eastern Conference. The Bulls did, in fact, accomplish that. They won 128-102. Nikola Vukovic led in points. Josh Giddey led in both rebounds and assists with 13 and 11, respectively. But then the Bulls didn't stop there. They continued Thursday against the San Antonio Spurs. Spurs were a 500 team after this game because the Bulls got the win, 139-124. 139. Bulls almost put up 150 points on a team, which is typically the other way around. Teams are putting almost 150 points up against them.
Yeah, typically feast or famine with the 3-ball that they've been working out this year.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, the Bulls had that home win against the Nets that brought them to 3-7 at home, still struggling at the United Center. However, with this win over the Spurs, the Bulls are now 7-6 on the road. So better road team, road warriors, basically, at this case. 10-13 on the season. Vukovic led in points again, this time with 39. Of those 139 points, he had 39 of them. Ayo Dosunmu had 10 rebounds and 11 assists, which led the team on both categories, both stats. But unfortunately, last night in Indiana, well, actually, no, this was at the United Center. What am I talking about? Again, the Bulls had struggles at home. The Pacers take this one 132-123. Pacers are now 10-14. So are the Bulls. It was Tyrese Halliburton with 23 points leading the way for Indiana. Pascal Siakam had 7 rebounds. Halliburton also led in assists with 8. Zach LaVine got back into the points leading category as he usually is with 32 points. Nikola Vukovic led in rebounds as he does with 9, and Kobe White had the high in assists with 9. Now, this Bulls team, we're coming down the line here with the trade deadline approaching. I have to double check, but usually the Christmas time is around the time when talks start heating up. There has already been some speculation on Patrick Williams and if the Bulls are going to trade him. Supposedly, teams are saying the Bulls' numbers are still way too high. But along with Patrick Williams, the Bulls have said that the shop is open, which means you're willing to trade anyone. They're looking to part ways with Lonzo Ball, who just came back. He's doing pretty good, though. I think is the right move because his trade value, you can risk it. It may never be higher. But you've waited 3 years and told your fans, just wait till he comes back. Just wait till he comes back. Just wait. All putting your entire organization on the shoulders of basically one man who you think was your glue piece. I mean, of course, you had other pieces here. You had DeMar DeRozan. You still have Zach LaVine. You had Ayo and Kobe White coming up. But now that he is finally back and injuries are still a question with him, and he's not performing as well as you thought, the Bulls as a whole are not performing as well as you thought. Now it's immediately, let's trade him and get assets, which, as I said, is probably the right move. But this is just a delayed retool rather than the rebuild that it should be. This Bulls team really needs to reconsider and basically blow things up. You have a bunch of all-stars on this team, namely, I guess, 2. I don't know if you technically throw Lonzo Ball in there, but Kobe White got snubbed for Most Improved Player of the Year last year. He should be on that list. Zach LaVine is, at times here inconsistent, but I think when he is at the top of his play, he is that guy, basically. Nikola Vukovic is consistent, maybe not what you hoped he would pan out to be. You thought the ceiling was much higher, but this Bulls team is 10-14 with all of that talent on this team. They are barely making it into a play-in spot.
And they don't need it. They don't want it.
This Bulls team, on paper, with the names that it has, should be much higher than this. But you take into account real life is not a vacuum. You have injuries. You have unforeseen challenges. Those challenges have been here for a while now. It's time to part ways with those challenges and bring in some new life here.
And the running theme for this Chicago-based sports town is management.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about a lot of the coaches, my friend, and how these front offices are run and what they need to do. They need to get some mustaches in office. Billy Donovan does not have a mustache right now, as far as I know, and that is partly his problem. But what I have to say is Matas Buzelis is only playing 11 minutes a night. Now, that you drafted him this year. I understand he's still a rookie, but you need to get him, if you're going to keep him up at this NBA level, you need to get him more time out there on the court.
Well, once they do the whole house fire thing and sell everyone,
could be
the G League is going to be the NBA team.
But we're going to get to Windy City Bulls in a second. I hope that's not the case yet.
We need to get moving.
Yes.
We need to get moving.
Yeah, the Bulls need to get moving for sure.
And we need to get moving.
Oh, yes. Well, okay. So the Chicago Bulls play tomorrow at home against the 76ers at noon, and Friday versus the Charlotte Hornets at 7 p.m. Both home games, both on Chicago Sports Network. And I guess you could catch those both there. It's a light week for the Bulls. It's maybe a better week for the Windy City Bulls. Last Saturday after our broadcast here at WRMN, the Windy City Bulls were at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indiana to face the Indiana Mad Ants. Not really sure where that name comes from, but of course they are the Pacers farm team. Now, we just talked about the Bulls playing the Pacers. This is the Windy City Bulls playing the Mad Ants. The Bulls get the win in overtime, 102-96. They put up 7 points in that extra frame. It was DJ Stewart who led the way with 23 points. And just a solid win for this Bulls team. Unfortunately, though, it was a back-to-back with the Mad Ants in Indiana, or as back-to-back, I guess, as you can get in the G League, with the game on Monday at 5 p.m., still at Gainbridge. This one, the Windy City Bulls fell by 3 points, 112-109 in regulation. It was DJ Stewart again leading the way, this time with 28 points, but it still wasn't enough. Thursday, Windy City comes back home after a little stretch there to face the Miami Heat affiliate, G League affiliate. That was the Sioux Falls Skyforce. And unfortunately, this was a 21-point
Yes, Kimmy,
loss.
that's a real name.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I have to control my face.
It's a tough name. I had to look up because most of these G League teams are very similar, if not the same, as their affiliate in the NBA.
Right.
And I was like, who do the Skyforce
This is
feed?
The Elon
Like,
Musk.
what?
This is the Elon Musk team.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He's trying to push that Skyforce agenda.
The Sioux Falls Skyforce, they took the win in this one, 21 points. In this one, the Windy City Bulls' highest scorer was Adama Sanogo with 16, so they were mostly held off the board. It was a tough end of the week for this Windy City team. We'll get into the standings and their record next week as we dive deeper into them. But just to let you know, their upcoming games, they're back home tonight at 7 p.m. against the Iowa Wolves. That one's a little bit simpler. That's the Minnesota Timberwolves G League affiliate. And then Friday, December 13th, they're at home against the Sioux Falls Skyforce again at 7 p.m. Tonight, you can get there early because the first 1,500 fans...
Are they giving away Schwartz's?
Schwartz's?
May the Schwartz be with you? Oh, is that movie a little bit before your time, my friend?
I don't understand. Is that like an Italian sausage?
No.
Schwartz's? Italian beef?
Keep your Italian sausage out of this conversation.
Is it like a combo at Portillo's place?
Oh, jeez.
No, they're giving away a bobblehead. It is Gus T. Bull. Haha, get it? Gus T. Bull and Benny having a snowball fight. So both of them are on the bobblehead. It's a pretty cool one. I'd actually want one of these if it wasn't already taken tonight with other plans. And then December 13th, it will be a hat giveaway. It is the first of the Artist Series hats. This one's really cool. I don't have the artist name here, although they were highlighting her for this artwork. I think that was really great of them. This is the first 1,500 fans. We've seen this done with the Windy City Bulls in previous years and also now with the Rockford Ice Hogs. So I think it's a neat idea. So get on out there to the Now Arena to see the Windy City Bulls. Do you guys have any final thoughts on the Bulls or the Windy City Bulls?
No.
It's basically all one at this point with the results.
Yeah, pretty much. But why don't we talk about some winning hockey?
Yeah.
And when I say winning hockey, I don't mean the Chicago Blackhawks.
And we don't mean anybody else other than, who could it be? The Chicago Steel. We've been harping on them for weeks here as they've had a really rough stretch in November. However, last Saturday versus the Madison Capitals back at Fox Valley, alert, the Chicago Steel are back in the win column. They get the 4-2 victory over the Madison Capitals. That is the first Steel win. Of course, this was last Saturday, so that would have been November 30th. That was their first win since November 1st. They went practically the whole month without seeing a W. They had 3 unanswered goals in this one. Defenseman Alex Kalbeck scored his first USHL goal in the first period. Alex Haig and Alan Valentini scored as well. Valentini's was the game-winning goal, and Luc Gauthier was... Luke Golker scored a power play goal, not the goaltender Luca. Goaltender Jack Parsons stopped 39 of 41. That's his first win since September 27th. Ouch, that's even longer for him. Unfortunately, though, the Steel went right back to their losing ways. That was a 5-2 loss last night on the road against, who else? The Madison Capitals. Colin Sisson scored his team-leading 10th goal, and Aiden Dyer added his 6th. Luca Cloutier was in for this one. He made 23 saves. Unfortunately, did not get the win. That means we will head to the future schedule. That is tonight at 7:05 p.m. at Fox Valley Ice Arena here in Geneva against the Madison Capitals. Again, what do you know? 3 games in a row against this Madison Capitals team. Who made this schedule? This is tough. Although tonight is NHL 94 night, my friends, presented by Rookies All-American Pub and Grill. I want to see some NHL 94 style sellies going on in there. There better be some mustaches, and Derek is not too impressed. But 90s night, man, it's when the peak of Chicagoan was there. We had the 90s Bulls. We were on the rise. See what I did there with the Chicago Blackhawks. They made it. They made it. They just couldn't get over that hump of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
I think you should send this in for your audition reel.
This is going to be my home reel.
The Chicago Bears fans.
I should sponsor everything down to Malort, my friends.
And as the friendly neighborhood astronomer said, it was the Spaceball reference that I was referring to with "May the Schwartz be with you."
Oh, yeah, I actually should have gotten that.
Yeah, you should have, because that's right up your alley.
Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah. No. Don't get us. No,
Yikes.
don't do that.
We're not there yet.
Are we done talking Steel hockey?
We have 2 more games to cover. That's next Friday versus Cedar Rapids Rough Riders at 7:05 p.m. That will be the Winter Wonder. Yeah, right after that comment too. The Cedar Rapids Rough Riders. It's not like the.
Get your mind out of the gutter, Kimmy.
It's not like the CFL, the Canadian Football League, where they have 2 Rough Riders teams. There's only one in this league. But that will be the Steel's Winter Wonderland event night. So I don't know what that entails. It just says Winter Wonderland, but expect to have some Christmas vibes and some, maybe it's a little warmer in the arena, though, than outside. Next Saturday, after another edition of On the Rise at 7:05 p.m., the Steel will be in I'm on Ice Arena. It's a weird name, but to face the Rough Riders in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So it's a home and away series with the Rough Riders. How many more times can I say Rough Riders? In the meantime, you can purchase a holiday plan from the Steel. You select 3 Steel games and receive 2 tickets to a Chicago Blackhawks home game, either versus the Calgary Flames on January 13th or January 20th against the Carolina Hurricanes. That's only $55. I think the offer is valid through, I cut off the dates here, my bad. But yeah, they have a number of games.
And you could save a horse too.
Yeah, there's a number. Yeah, it's a huge savings. And there's a number of games that are going to be really crucial for the Steel. Saturday, December 28th is Chicago Blackhawks night featuring Chris Chelios. And then, it just says 2 additional Steel games. There's always a promo going on for this Steel team. That's great.
Yeah, but we need to talk some other hockey right now. And by that, I'll just let this clip play.
Expectations that we had coming into the year were not met. I think our goals and our result fell a little bit short, and so I felt a change needed to be made and a new voice was needed, and I'm very confident that Anders Sorensen will be a good source of new voice, new ideas, and someone that's capable of extracting more out of this group. So
that was GM Kyle Davidson on the press conference in regards to the firing of Blackhawks coach Luke Richardson.
Time for some new leadership here, my friends, and I think it's time the Blackhawks call me. No, I actually have Anders Sorensen. Anders? It's still to be determined. I believe it's Anders because that's how Kyle Davidson referred to him, but also there was a press conference with Anders, and he said Anders is fine, but I don't know if he meant Anders is fine as in it's okay if you call me that, even though that's not how I pronounce my name, or we're going to get to the bottom of this once we start talking to some Rockford and Chicago personnel. Sneak peek here in the next couple of weeks. But we got to track back to last Sunday versus the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Blackhawks came off of that 6-2 victory right before the Thanksgiving holiday with the Bedard goal and the Taylor Hall hat trick. In this one, you got another Bedard goal and a fancy move. However, and as well, you had a Peter Mrazek unbelievable save. That was a diving across split save with the glove. That was a beauty to watch. Go back and check that one out. But a 6-3 loss to this Columbus team, who has been better this year. We might have to talk to Dalton again, as we got him in a couple weeks ago to talk Columbus, and he is a fan, so we got to break that down. But the Blackhawks then went on to lose 4-1. It was a quick turnaround after a Sunday afternoon game. It was a Monday evening game in Toronto, a 4-1 loss. Arvid Soderblom had won both games against the Toronto Maple Leafs last year. Those were his only 2 wins of the season. Unfortunately, he did not get the win in this one as the Blackhawks fall 4-1. Lucas Reichel is your lone goal scorer. And it's not even, Austin Matthews and John Tavares scored, but Matthew Nyes got the empty netter. It was Fraser Mitten who scored in this one. So a lot of depth scoring for this Toronto team. It's not what you want to see for the Blackhawks. And then we jump to the game of the week on Wednesday. It was an original 6 matchup. The Blackhawks hosting the Bruins. It was on TNT and Max, so I finally thought I could watch a game from start to finish. Unfortunately, the national TNT broadcast was blacked out in Chicago, which was, honestly, I understand that it was being shown simultaneously on Chicago Sports Network, but it was robbery. Stupid. It was robbery that TNT broadcast was blacked out because of all the jokes that they have on there with Paul Bissonnette, and if you're deep into hockey and you know what's going on there, I'm not going to dive into it here, but there was a lot going on between him and Brad Marchand. But also just the actual broadcast of the game is a well-done job by TNT. So I turned on the old streaming service to get TNT or Max, and I got I kid you not, I got 1 minute of the game streamed. And in that 1 minute, I watched Morgan Geekie take the puck up the ice and score a goal. And as soon as the Bruins started celebrating, it went right back to the blackout screen. I don't know what glitched in order for me to watch a minute of that game or what led up for 1 second. But then it went back to saying, this is being streamed on Chicago Sports Network. It's blacked out in your area. So
gotta love that.
But you know what? That was a good summarization of what that game was. The Blackhawks fall 4-2 to the Bruins, and it's a struggling Bruins team, even though they're a little bit over 500. And so that was what brought us to the Blackhawks firing head coach Luke Richardson, and Rockford Ice Hogs head coach Anders Sorensen steps up into the role. Luke Richardson, I wasn't surprised, but I also wasn't. I was kind of indifferent. I understand he wasn't the right guy for the job. The writing was kind of on the wall. You don't like to see a nice guy cut like that, but this is a business, and the results weren't there. In his 3 seasons with the Blackhawks, he had 190 games, 57 wins, 118 losses, 15 overtime losses, a .339 winning percentage. Now, 2 of those years, one of them, they were tanking heavily for Bedard. Last year was, okay, year 1 of the rebuild, technically, and Bedard's finally here, and it's about getting him minutes, getting him acclimated to the NHL. Most people think this rebuild started way earlier. No, rebuild year number 1 was last year. The year before that, 2022-23, was a tank year to get Bedard. Your rebuild doesn't begin until you have that glorious prospect in your hands, Connor Bedard.
Yeah.
Now this is year 2, and they expected not playoffs, but a step up. It has been a step back. And so I understand.
And here's a sound clip of Kyle Davidson, GM of the Blackhawks, talking about the expectations for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, I think it was more so what we expected from just the team from game to game. You know, we were close in a lot of games, which is good, which is a step forward from last year. But, you know, at times I think some of the reasons why we fell short in those games were more, call it, you know, maybe habitual, you know, habit things that I think can be cleaned up through feedback and through, you know, maybe some different instruction, you know, in practice between games, that kind of thing. And I think that was just some of the reasons games went sideways on us. I think were likely fixable.
And fixable or not, I mean, he is partly the reason why the Blackhawks are struggling.
Was
and
that
I'm talking
courtesy
about
of the Blackhawks?
That was courtesy of CHGO. Thank you for that.
CHGO. Oh, yes, yeah.
So,
good show.
I mean, Kyle Davison talking about the expectations that he has for Luke Richardson and the Blackhawks. But when you go out and spend $50 million on free agents in the offseason and they're the wrong pieces to give your head coach to work with?
I mean, yes, yeah, they're not performing well enough, but also a lot of that. Luke Richardson, and I wanted to get into this. I don't know if we're going to have time, so I might save this for next week. But Connor Bedard has had at least 20-plus minutes with 8 different forwards at even strength this year. That is way too much line juggling. If you can't find a nice, healthy combination at that point with those players, then you've exhausted everything possible. So yes, those players, those veterans that you brought in aren't performing, but at a certain point you have to sacrifice that and just say, listen, we're going to just help Bedard. This is year 2. You cannot. The biggest issue, the biggest reason that Luke Richardson was relieved here is Connor Bedard's step back and regression this year. He had the 12-game point drought or goal drought. You cannot have your top prospect taking a regression in his second year. It cannot be a sophomore slump. He needs to take steps forward. And when you're not doing enough to get Connor Bedard to that level, Connor Bedard's shots from the high slot last year, 55.7%. This year, 50.4%. So this line shuffling is rough for him. Especially, he's had more rush chances than he had last year. 1.33 average this year, 1.25 last year. So we'll see with Anders Sorensen. This is the 4th rookie head coach in a row for the Blackhawks. So and again, another one brought up from Rockford. He's done a great job with Rockford. 117, 89, 16, and 7 is his record in 229 AHL games in 3 seasons. But we're going to have to see how this one shakes out.
And you are listening to On the Rise with your host, Derek Geyer, and Mike Napolitano on AM 1410 WRMN. Coming up is your fantasy football sports half hour with Nick Johnston. Stay tuned. Nick will be live on the phone. And then we'll be talking about with Marcus Mack at the bottom of the hour.
Everyone has a community to lean on. A neighborhood, school, kids' teams, where you worship, work out, or any other place or group where you choose to belong. Communities can provide support when you need it, and even when you don't know you do. Like when it comes to preventing underage drinking and other substance use. You've talked with your kids and shared clear expectations, but you're not with them every minute. Your community members, friends and relatives, teachers and coaches, faith leaders, and other important adults in your kids' lives can be your eyes, ears, and a supportive influence when you're not around, reinforcing your messages with your kids and alerting you to warning signs of underage drinking or other substance use. So talk with your kids about these issues and involve the members of your community to help keep your kids safe. Because when you talk, they hear you.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410, Elgin time, 9 o'clock.
Welcome back to On the Rise with your host, Derek Geyer, and Mike Napolitano. In studio is Kimbria Hopkins, and on the phone line is Nick Johnston. But before we get that, we need to do this.
Johnston. Fantasy guru. I got the hardware to prove it right here. A little bit of bling bling. You gotta be a leader of men. You gotta get a bunch of guys from a bunch of different teams, get them all on the same page, and then all for the same glory. Exactly. Being your fantasy championship winner. That's the whole point of it. Making me sound pretty good with my Bryce Young take on there.
Paging fantasy doctor Nick Johnston.
I'll play a little bit of doctor. We'll talk a little injury report. Let me put my doctor's cap on, my scrubs.
Well, how the hell are you doing, Mr. Nick Johnston, our fantasy sports guru?
I'm doing all right today, doing a little bit better. Actually, no, that's why I didn't come in today. I was feeling a little under the weather. If you guys know, we're over there all the time over at Illinois Media School.
Sure.
There's a little bug going around, so I just didn't want to, come on in and get the fine people at WRMN all sick. So wasn't trying to do that today.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate that, Nick. I've already got a little bit of a frog in my throat. We're just trying to take care of business here, as you know.
As we have Kimberly in the studio today, well, what's it like to be able to hear your own voice on that intro?
Oh, it's fun.
And it's interesting every time I hear it.
The first time I ever heard that, I was like, where did we get this? This is great. What?
We got some fine production over here. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Hey, gotta love the drops that you put into it. Gotta love the people that we work with, or the students that we come across from IMS. I mean, obviously the four of us, and including you, Nick, we're all IMS people. Mike, myself, we've graduated from IMS. Kimmy's about to graduate in about a month or so. So this is her first foray into live radio. And I think it's going pretty well.
I think so as well.
So far, so good, my friends.
Oh, the coach, shut the hell up, you stinking bastard. But, okay, Nick, enough of that. You're not on here wasting your time with fantasy football right now. What do we got as far as, well, geez, I mean, we're going into week 14. This is the week before the playoffs. What do we got as far as, like, starts and sits? Do we key matchups? I mean, what are we looking at? What do we got for you, and off the top of your mind?
I was going to take you guys down the rabbit hole of strength of schedule remaining, and that was going to be the goal today.
Awesome.
So obviously, this is the big week for those. Some people already have their bye week. Maybe some people have already had their bye week set for a week beforehand, and they're just sitting up on their perch, looking above. They're like, all right, let all my peasants, let them all fight for the remainder of the spots. It seems to be what this week is all about for some people. Otherwise, it could be as competitive as can be. Both spots might be open. So this is the time to get in there, make sure you have your rosters tip-top shape and everything ready to go. Before I get into the quick, strength of schedule, obviously shout out to the people that were able to snag Isaac Garando.
Who?
I know I'm butchering the last name. Garando. He's the San Francisco 49ers running back now that Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason all out for the remainder of the season. So congratulations there, considering he's playing the Bears this week. And also, side note, someone has him and is playing against me, so he's going to go crazy. He's probably going to have like 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. So again, congratulations there. The runner-up spot in this later on broke, I think it was yesterday. Breece Hall was listed as doubtful. So anyone that was able to snag Braylon Allen, that's a good job on you, and we'll be hitting him a little bit later because he's on the nice little list for a good strength of schedule for the rest of the way. So
okay.
I think I was going to hit that, and then maybe quickly talk about Thursday night if that's cool. That's really cool. I'm just going to say I want to tease the strength of schedule a little bit.
Sure. And that was one hell of a Thursday night football game with the Packers losing to the Detroit Lions on a last-minute field goal. Last second. Hey, that's my line.
I figured I'd fill in for you.
What you doing there?
Is there two Derricks going on? What's going on over there?
Oh, jeez.
Well, yeah, no, that was a fantastic Thursday night game. 34-31 the final right there in Detroit. They went ahead and snagged a playoff spot while everybody else here in Fantasyland is trying to snag their playoff spots. The Detroit Lions are taking care of it in actual football and doing their due diligence to get in their playoff spot as well. So I thought that was fantastic. But honestly, the big highlights were two people doing well and one person having a bit of a stinker. But David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, Knuckles and Sonic, again, having a fantastic back-to-back game. I think 19.2 and 19.3, perfectly balanced by Dan Campbell and the offense right there. So another fantastic game right then and there. I want to pull up, actually, Jahmyr Gibbs' stat line throughout the year. I don't think he has not had a single-digit game this entire year, if I'm not mistaken. 17.4, 17.6, 16.3, 19.8. Besides his bye week, that was the only time he didn't put up points. Okay, my apologies. 2 weeks ago, he had 9.4 against the Chicago Bears just because he had a fumble. So, again, depending on your scoring, probably still even had
the damn Bears.
There, so, yeah, it's those Bears, always the combo breaker right there, no matter what they do. But, yeah, that's just an amazing performance throughout the entire season by Jahmyr Gibbs, where obviously we talk about Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry at the running back position. But if we're talking consistency, it seems like it's Jahmyr Gibbs and someone that we're going to highly, highly sought after for next year's drafts. So I just wanted to make sure we give our tip of the cap there, but also shine some light on the fact that no Jaden Reed on the Green Bay Packers side of things. And man, oh man, he got some people upset not only there, but also on the parlay side of things. I don't know if you guys saw on his story, he was saying, you know what, guys, I don't care about your parlays, but that was me being the PG version of that. So, Jaden Reed.
I don't give up.
He did not give two cares about your parlay.
That's all right, guys. I know that we're on the radio. I know well enough to know that I can't say that on the radio.
Say what?
There we go.
Say what?
Exactly.
The beep. The beep, 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 beep. I'm sorry, Nick. Go ahead. My bad.
Oh, yeah. No, isn't there 7 words that you can't say? I'm sure there's probably more now that you can
say. Some 12-letter word, some 10-letter word. Yeah.
Shout out George Carlin. We miss him.
Yes.
But absolutely.
He gets the references.
That fantastic.
Why can't you get the references?
I got that reference.
You didn't get the Schwartz reference. What the hell? No,
Get back to fantasy right now.
Oh, okay, back to you,
I
Nick.
understood that reference. I'm not that young.
See what happens when I'm not in studio. You guys gotta play nice. Play nice, you two.
Oh, now we're gonna add caregiver to your list of things on your intro.
There we go. I'm trying to keep the peace. I'm trying to keep the peace here.
Dad, Mike's
ride.
being a
exactly.
You can't say that word on the radio, my friend.
What the shiatsu are you talking about?
We've gone so off the rails here.
Yeah, a little bit.
Even Marcus in the back is like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's a good thing our sports director is not watching this right now.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Fantastic.
Anyways, I'm sorry, Nick. Please continue.
No. You're good. Like I said, another fantastic Thursday night game. A couple more to go there as well. So, I just want to maybe shout out there, and then let's hit the strength of schedule. Let's go ahead and hit those. I'm looking at that by position. I'm not gonna. I have it right now set that I'm looking at just the playoff strength of schedule. Just the playoff strength of schedule. So
okay.
I'm sure that it might trickle in this week as well, but I want to look forward a little bit, like I said, because some people might already be set in their playoff position. Some people might just be fighting for maybe a different spot within, or maybe the final bye week spot for some. And then that's always the big part. Having that bye week, securing for sure that you're at least on to the next week. That's all that matters. Doesn't matter how you get there. You just got to get in the playoffs to have an opportunity to win your championship. So let's go ahead and start the QB position. I'm going to go ahead and hit the top 5 for each position. Talk about these guys. Talk about what they're going to be seeing these next upcoming weeks. so on and so forth.
Okay, and before we get going on that, Nick, you guys are listening to AM 1410 WRMN on the Rise with the Fantasy Sports Half Hour with Nick Johnston. Go ahead, Nick.
Sure thing. So starting off here at the QB position, or at the QB strength of schedules, top 5 have the Tennessee Titans, the Carolina Panthers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Cleveland Browns, and the Denver Broncos. So at number 1, we're looking at Will Levis, who hasn't had the worst stretch these past couple weeks. 22, 17, 19, and 19. And honestly, that's basically hitting your projection or a little bit more. So that's nice right there. But upcoming here this week, they have the Jacksonville Jaguars. After that, Cincinnati. And then finally, in week 16 will be the Colts, and then the Jaguars again in week 17. So this might be a nice precursor to see what could happen in your fantasy championship with Will Levis. If this is just a tester for you to go ahead and do that. So Jacksonville, he'll be seeing Jacksonville twice in this stretch of 4 games, and they're not the top-notch defense that once was. So not the worst right there. And again, Cincinnati, as much as they score on one end, they love giving up points on the other end. That's why I believe they're 2-4 after scoring 30-plus points this year. Absolutely bonker of a stat. That just goes to show you that defense is almost like those old saloon barn doors where you can just push right through it and they know it's going to give you any fuss about it. So seems to be that's going to be the case right there. So you're looking for a stream quarterback. Will Levis has the best strength of schedule on the way out going into your fantasy football playoffs. If you want to take a look at Bryce Young, you might be braver than I, but again, he's having a better stretch down the way. That you're able to keep it close in Kansas City. Almost walked it off and beat the Buccaneers last week. Even like I said, even been throwing a guy like Adam Thielen. He's not done. He's not washed. He's just coming back. So more names to go ahead and maybe stream. Maybe some of these guys are still on free agency. So that's going to be the way to go there. Pittsburgh after that, obviously Russell Wilson might be snagged up in your league already. So I'll hold off a little bit on that. But obviously,
that's been quite the surprise this year. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Just the fact that the Steelers at the top of that division, the Ravens and the Bengals still right there as well. I mean, that was absolutely did not see that at the beginning of the year. I very much was like everyone else.
Poor Ravens fans.
Yeah, they still have a chance, but it's going to be tough for them as well.
True.
At number 4, Cleveland. Again, if you want to ride the roller coaster of Jameis Winston, you might be braver than I am, but it's still on the docket. Cleveland Browns, we just saw, he had 34 points after throwing still 3 interceptions.
Yeah, that's insane.
Still on that game on Monday night, and against a very good defense in the Denver Broncos. They're the number one ranked fantasy defense, and it helped. They gave them a ton of points, but they also scored 2 defensive touchdowns, so that kind of washed it out for them. So, and then speaking of the Denver Broncos, Bo Nix, Denver Broncos are the fifth ranked right there for the strength of schedule for quarterbacks. Argue dark horse for rookie of the year. He's having some very solid numbers, and somehow, some way, a very cheap and affordable hook right there would have been Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton, and I've seen a ton of those throughout the year. So those are the guys right there. Will Levis, Bryce Young, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Bo Nix are your top 5 strength of schedule quarterbacks heading into the fantasy football playoffs. On to the running back position. And the guy that I was mentioning earlier, Braylon Allen, if you're able to snag him, they are the number 1 spot. The New York Jets have the easiest strength of schedule for the running back position on the way out. Let me go ahead and quickly see what they're going up against with exactly that. With no Breece Hall, Braylon Allen is going to be the guy. Might not know how long. So it should be in your good intentions. If somehow, some way, if you're listening right now, and Braylon Allen is still in your free agency pool, stop what you're doing, go get him, and come back to this session, and we'll continue talking. Because honestly, this is going to be the guy to go. The New York Jets have the Miami Dolphins this week. They'll play Jacksonville, between the Rams and the Buffalo Bills. We all saw what happened against those Rams on Sunday night with Saquon Barkley. I'm not going to sit here and say that Saquon Barkley and Braylon Allen are the same guy. I'm just going to say it could be the same outcome. It could be very, very similar when we sit here and compare Braylon Allen to a guy like Derrick Henry in the same stature. So there you go, New York Jets at number 1. We have the Arizona Cardinals at number 2, so James Conner will be your guy right there. But also, just a quick thing. If you somehow some way banged up, look at Trey Benson. He's been getting some touches as well. Atlanta is your third guy, so obviously, Bijan Robinson, no one's going to drop him. He's been having a fantastic year. He was in some people's number 1 overall fantasy spot. So rightfully so, he's not going to be gone. Maybe just look at Tyler Algier just in case if you want to sneak some extra spots right there. Maybe you're in a long shot 14-man league and just need something. So Tyler Algier might be the backup for you right there. Tampa Bay has the number 4 spot. So between Bucky Irving, who's he's a little banged up, but I think he's able to get in some practices. Most likely going to play this week. So also Rashard White seems to be that it's pretty good right there between those two individuals. And then number 5 is the Indianapolis Colts. So they're on a bye this week, and they'll come back to, let's see. Let's go and look up really quick what Jonathan Taylor and the boys are going to be looking at for the next upcoming weeks for the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah, it's going to be, like I said, they're on bye this week.
Yeah, and as you are looking up that, Nick, I'm going to say hello, Brendan. Thank you for listening alongside the Dutchman's Wood Shack. Thank you. Kimmy says hi back to everyone.
Hello.
Oh, there she is.
Hi, guys.
All right. And getting back to Nick. Sorry, Nick.
Oh, yeah, sure. Always got to shout out to the fans. It's the best part about doing the show, is about the interaction. So like I said, I got Jonathan Taylor's schedule on the way. Week 14, they got a bye. Denver coming up after that, Tennessee Titans, and then the New York Giants in the final week right there. So very, very, very easy way out for them as well.
Okay.
So those are the five running backs or 5 names that you're for sure going to be looking at, the 5 teams with the best strength of schedule for that. As I'm clicking on the wide receivers and trying to look at that right there, a little bit of a surprising name. I know I got a couple more minutes just to wrap this things on up here, so I want to make sure I get this on in. You got the Raiders at the number 1 spot for strength of schedule for wide receivers.
What?
So, again, this might be yes. It might be a stretch. We're looking at guys like Jacoby Myers in that situation. Then again, these are names that are still available, most likely in your free agency. So Jacoby Myers, he's not a wide receiver, but you just know that in that same breath, Brock Bowers is going to have a crazy next couple of games as well. I would even argue him for Rookie of the Year. It'd be a hard stretch, but for sure he could get in there.
Are you feeling okay? Isn't Brock Bowers on Las Vegas?
I'm not in studio for a reason. We got a fever. I got a fever.
Well,
the only thing that can help it is fantasy points. That's the only thing that can help me right now.
You need some good old chicken noodle soup from Portillo's with a dipped combo, my friend.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That'll get the job done. It'll get the heartburn cleared up right away.
Or induce it.
Absolutely.
Definitely give you the sweats.
Next up at number 2, I have the Tennessee Titans. So these are guys like Calvin Ridley, most likely rostered, but look at a guy, and maybe it's not biased because his name is also Nick, but Nick Westbrook-Akine, who has 9 touchdowns in his last 8 games. And if you look at that, those 9 touchdowns are on about 20-some-odd receptions or so. So Will Levis, again, a guy that I mentioned who has the best strength of schedule for quarterback, also has the wide receivers as the number 2 best strength of schedule for wide receivers. It seems like maybe, again, affordable hooks still in this league if you can snag Will Levis off free agency. And then maybe look at a guy like Nick Westbrook-Akine, who's going crazy in that sort of little stretch right there. The Bears also have a spot right there. They're the 3rd strength of schedule spot, easiest strength of schedule for the wide receivers position. So guys that have DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, even Rome Odunze might be ecstatic and might be happy for the rest of the way out. show up again. So I mentioned again, Adam Thielen back in the talks, back in the swing of things, and also maybe even Xavier Legette, I forgot his. I'm sorry. He's a Louisiana guy, so he's got some Southern to him. Big country, I think that's what they call him. And then finally, the New York Giants. So I'm going to be honest. Besides Malik Neighbors, not really going to know too many New York Giants wide receivers off the top of the dome. So be mindful, but obviously got to inform you and tell you at the very least that the Giants are on this list.
Well, I'm still surprised about the Las Vegas Raiders and everything on that. Holy, okay, but cool.
Yeah, I know. And again, it comes with a little bit of, I would say, a warning to a certain extent, because you are dealing with a question mark of, okay, can I rely on Aiden O'Connell? Can I rely on maybe whoever they might be plugging in right there? But it seems to be, again, with Brock Bowers having the big games that he has, that can also facilitate and go into somebody else. I mean, Jacoby Myers hasn't had the worst games, again. Like, nothing that's popping off and having humongous things, but if he's at least meeting his projection or exceeding it a little bit, that's not the worst case scenario. Wrapping it up here, I got the tight end position. We have Cleveland sitting at the number one spot right there. So that's our guy, David Njoku, who was a lot of people's heroes last year. Maybe could do the same exact thing this year down the stretch. Honestly, this is what I'm talking about, this strength of schedule, is who can be your hero down the stretch? Who can be the fancy guy? Who can come out of nowhere and be your savior? Because obviously you got the top guys. You drafted Tyreek Hill high. You hope that he's going to come out, and you would hope that he would hit for you. You drafted Derrick Henry probably at the right spot too. Saquon Barkley. You know these guys are going to hit. You're looking for, the guy exactly at the Nick Westbrook-Akine age. You're looking for the Adam Thielen who's going to give you a 25, 30-point spot when you're like, well, how? Why? Why are they doing this? It's just because it's fantasy playoffs and they want to shake it up a little bit. So that's my little brain right there telling you that. So yeah, like I said, who can be your hero? Who can be your savior down the line in this fantasy football playoffs? A lot of people can, a lot of opportunity, and it can maybe even be Adam Troutman. Someone hidden. I'm always learning someone different. The Denver Broncos are also the tight end spot. That's the number 2 strength of schedule. Unfortunately, might have to look up who the backup is in New Orleans, because Taysom Hill is going to be gone. They are the number 3 strength of schedule spot for tight ends.
And
Pittsburgh.
We got about a minute left, Nick, and here's my harebrained thought on this. What about like any running back that are going up against the Chicago Bears? Just quick thought.
I would have to. Yeah, let me quickly pull up just what the Bears are going to be up to. But obviously, yeah.
I mean, this week, 49ers running back, the new guy, because obviously CMC is out. The backup to him is out, and now all of a sudden they're facing the third running back. But I mean, geez, it's Swiss cheese. Their defensive line is Swiss cheese.
So remaining, we have the Niners, the Vikings, the Lions, the Seahawks, and the Packers. And then, I mean, obviously talked about Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery. That's going to be tough. Aaron Jones, who had a nice game against the Bears already. That's going to be tough. The only question mark really is Isaac Guerrero, who, again, you would think he's going to get a ton of looks and a ton of touches just because he is basically the number 1 that's there. So it's going to be tough. I'm going to go ahead and see who confidently play running backs against the Bears.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate you hopping on with us, Nick. That's been Nick Johnston of our Fantasy Football Sports Half Hour. Appreciate you hopping on. Go hit that chicken soup. Appreciate you. And we'll be talking.
So adaptable. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We'll be talking with you later.
All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to be talking about the wonderful Chicago Bears on AM 1410 WRMN with Mr. Marcus Mack.
And Marcus Mack is the host of The Truth About Chicago Sports. So stay tuned. Marcus Mack in studio with On the Rise, talking Chicago Bears football.
next item I want to make sure we're clear about.
You pay nothing. Exit your timeshare today. Call now.
800-890-5957. 800-890-5957. That's 800-890-5957.
Theriault Booth, a leading local law firm, is located on the beautiful Fox River in downtown St. Charles. Here's Ryan Theriault.
For better or worse, there are just times people need a lawyer. Whether you are involved in a work injury, in an automobile crash, selling a home, or even planning for your estate after your passing, we're here. We're local. We're part of the community.
For more information, visit them on the web at tbfirm.com or give them a call at 630-526-4242.
Welcome back into On the Rise. I'm your host, Derek Geyer, alongside Mike Napolitano. In studio now with the truth about Chicago sports is the one, the only, Marcus Mack.
Hello, guys, and thank you for having me on. Always love being a guest in the studio with you guys on the Rise.
Well, we appreciate you coming in. Obviously, the reason why you are in is because of the Chicago Bears. Why don't you show our viewing audience Sweetness, number 34 of the Chicago Bears.
Those were the good French, my days.
Yes.
Or the good days, my French.
So the Derek, as I love to call him, reached out to me and said that he wanted to do a little crosstalk. And this is something we actually are going to start doing, listeners, a lot more, where, you know, hey, coming in, while their show's in, they're going to come in and therefore, these guys can get a chance to vent, because I know they got some stuff to talk about on the professional scene, especially when it comes to the Bears, but also Blackhawks and Bulls. And you get extensive coverage on the Rise when it comes to Blackhawks and all things amateur hockey as well.
It's been fun. It's been great. I mean, I love being able to cover the minor league side of things, because the old saying in hockey is the legs feed the wolf, right? And, of course, that means for the player. You know, the legs are what get you going and drive that player individually, but also when you look at it structurally, the AHL, the Always Hungry League, feeds the NHL. So we get a chance to see what's on the rise for our Blackhawks. And
see what we did there, folks?
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
I've done that twice now. This show. My dad joke's got to stop.
I know you guys probably already covered the Blackhawks. But I got a question really quick. What's going on? Is Connor, is this real? Is he really regressing? I thought he was the truth.
You know,
what's happening? I'm nervous.
It's early to say regression, because you know we're very early into his second season. I mean, he's
a young guy.
He's looked better last year. He had the jaw injury though that kept him out for a little bit, and the whole rest of the team isn't going. You know, so it's tough to really find something when the whole rest of your team isn't performing either. I mean, look at on the Bears side of things with Caleb Williams. I mean, Caleb can be, and that's who I think Bedard gets compared to most in this city, because they both came in rookies around the similar time. So you got to look at it as, all right, well, he can be this amazing talent, but if he doesn't, it's a team sport. If he doesn't have those guys around him, those weapons around him, it is tough. Now, Bedard in hockey's just as much of a team sport, but it's different in a way where, like in football, you can only do so much as a quarterback. I mean, unless you're a running quarterback like Justin Fields and you take it yourself all the time, you rely a lot on who your offensive line is, your receiver. I mean, we've seen it this year with the Bears. If there is zero offensive line, Caleb doesn't have time to do anything. He gets sacked immediately, or he has to scramble.
9 times a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
With Bedard, there is a little bit more, even though it's still a team sport, there is a little bit more individuality, where if he's that much of a playmaker, if he has that kind of hockey IQ, speed, and awareness on the ice, he can create things all by himself.
Sure.
but he still needs a cast and character around him. And like I mentioned, he's played with 8 different forwards for at least 20 or more minutes at even strength. And we're not talking power play times where they jumble it to make it the best line out there in order to score and very offensive. We're talking at even strength. That's a lot of different casting characters on your line alone.
It's a lot of movement.
Not only he's been struggling at the dot, which is why they moved him from the wing or from the center position to the wing, because faceoffs he's been second worst in the league. But I mentioned his rush chances, 1.33 rushes per game, which is higher than last year. That stat ranks top 5 amongst all NHLers. So he's still creating those chances. It's just he can't also put it in the back of the net every single time like the rest of them, which then leads to him underperforming, quote unquote, the rest of the team underperforming. And when that all happens, it's time for personnel change and Luke Richardson gets fired. And
it's also because the talent isn't on the level of Bedard.
Mm.
You know,
Some of it,
That's an interesting take.
I think that he's still trying to figure out with the players that he has. Obviously, he played with a majority of the core for the Chicago Blackhawks last season. You bring in new guys, and as you mentioned, all the different line mates and everything that he's had. Not only that, but then you also dropped him on the wing for a few games. So, I mean, they're just trying any which way to get him going, really.
Get him going. Yes, indeed. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that good breakdown. You know, like I say, I try to, cover all the major sports in Chicago. But as you know, the Bears dominate the airwaves right now. We got the Bulls going right now. Cubs are making moves. So sometimes the Blackhawks get left off the menu, and I don't get a chance to dive deep as much as I want. So I try to definitely always tell all the listeners out there, come to On the Rise, because you get a very good, hearty sample of Blackhawks information. The Derek. You,
sir,
have a thing. So
I have a thing.
Derek texts me and he's like, I got something to say about the Chicago Bears. And as you know, you listeners out there know that there's a brilliant segment that I love to do called the Mac Attack. Well, I haven't had the Mac Attack in a while, and it sounds like Derek is ready to drop an attack today. Derek, please voice your opinion to the people.
Well, before I do that, I think I'm going to play this little clip right here.
Want to make sure we're clear about is Ryan Poles is the general manager of the Chicago Bears, and he will remain the general manager of the Chicago Bears. Ryan is young, he's talented, he's bright, he's hardworking. He's done everything in his power on a daily basis to bring a winner to Chicago. And I'm confident in Ryan. My faith remains strong in Ryan. And as leader of our football operations department and as our general manager, Ryan will serve as the point person on our coach for our upcoming search for a permanent head football coach.
Now I'm going to stop it right there. As this interview or this press conference was going on, Ryan Poles is sitting next to Kevin Warren. And by the way, this was courtesy of Fox News 32. He looked like Dad is over there to his left, scolding him, sheepishly just like, oh my God, I wish I had a cloak of invisibility or something on me because, well, he just looked so GD uncomfortable, right? I mean, am I wrong?
No, and I think that a lot of that might even go back to initially what happened last week where after the game, the horrible
we'll get
game,
to that.
Matt Eberflus was allowed to go and do a press conference the following day, only to be fired hours later. So I think that scolding in that moment might have been Dad saying, why did you let him go out there?
That was the most awkward thing ever.
If we were discussing, when they were discussing, literally they were discussing Matt Eberflus's future while he was doing that press conference. The only thought I could think, if I'm the team president, and remember, everything rolls downhill, doesn't matter what business it is. If I'm the team president, the only thing I'm looking at is at the GM, why did you let him go out there for that press conference? Because that would explain a lot of scolding. That would explain a lot of scolding.
It was so awkward because you have Matt Eberflus on this press conference that he's saying, people are questioning his job.
They were literally discussing his job in a meeting during this press conference.
And on the press conference, they're like, well, what's the status of your position? Oh, I haven't heard anything. We're fine. We're going to look ahead.
No. Think about it. Remember, he said, I'm going to meet back with Ryan and Kevin. I'm going to meet. He said, I met with them.
Did say
he said,
that.
I met with them once over the game. He said, I'm going to meet back with them again after this press conference.
But he made it seem like there was nothing going on. And we're just looking
Maybe
ahead.
He didn't think that there was anything going on.
I don't know.
Maybe he was under the impression when he had the initial meeting that we were going to circle back to this conversation and we were going to talk about the future.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, nah. buddy. We already got your walking papers ready. So maybe when he had the press conference, it was like, okay, well, we're going to talk about this because our last email, right?
Yeah.
We were okay, but they had already made up their mind and just didn't tell him. I don't know.
Well, this was Kimmy foreshadowing this.
Conference, we had not made a final decision. And I think you know me, I think you know Ryan, I think you know Georgia McCaskey, and I think you know the McCaskey family. If one thing we stand for is family and integrity and doing it the right way. In retrospect, could we have done it better? Absolutely. And I'll be the first one to raise my hand, yes. But during his press conference and even a couple hours later, we had not reached a decision.
Which means that someone in the authoritative group wanted to keep him.
Yes, and we know
How in
who.
the hell is this possible?
Derek, we know who. Who? Mr. McCaskey.
Yep.
We find out that Bowles was vetoed in the summer from firing him because of McCaskey. We find out that he was vetoed for firing him after the Bills game because the Bears did not want to break the 100-year tradition of having not fired a coach mid-season. And make no mistake, I love this franchise. We all do, but they are so bound by their so-called traditions that it just drags them down over and over and over again. And here's another example of them trying to stay true to this weird tradition that they think they've established, this lore in the NFL, because there's this charter franchise that they got to operate a certain way that's at the detriment of your franchise. Yeah. That to me is crazy. If the Pittsburgh Steelers operated that the Chicago Bears did, they would have never got Mike Tomlin as a coach.
Look at what the Chicago Blackhawks said. You mentioned CHGO Blackhawks earlier. They were actually supposed to have Anders Sorensen on the show the day before he was promoted from Rockford head coach to Blackhawks head coach. That got put on pause. The Blackhawks organization told him, you can't go on CHGO today because we're having discussions, we're making moves, which raised a bunch of eyebrows and some red flags as to, okay, well, wait, something's happening here. Some people thought it was maybe they were moving Frank Nazar up to the Blackhawks, but this was a coaching decision. The Bears should have done something like that. They should have said, going back to that weird Eberflus press conference, they should have said, you can't go on this press conference yet. We need to make a decision first. Also, I understand you're talking about the guy's job, so maybe you don't want him in the room. But you also need to have a discussion with him before he goes out and speaks on behalf of your organization.
Yes. And it's not like they haven't done anything like that in the past.
Yes.
Hey, we're the Bears. You're the media. Piss off.
You talked about this weird tradition.
Yep.
First of all, why is not firing a head coach mid-season a tradition? Like,
exactly.
That's the weirdest thing to me. If something needs to be done on your car, you do it. You don't have a tradition of not changing your tires in the summer. What if you get a nail in the middle of your tire? You got to change your tire.
Wait, you want tradition?
Of the Chicago Bears. Why am I so excited about this opportunity to work with Ryan about finding our permanent head football coach here is, number one, we have the greatest fans that I talked about
permanent
earlier.
Football coach. 3 times.
I appreciate and embrace that passion. Secondly, is that we have a great tradition of the Chicago Bears. It is really special in all of sports.
Now, I said earlier on in the show, for the last 20 years, the Bears have had the 10th worst winning percentage.
Thank you. So what's the tradition?
Losing.
Well, no, wait a minute. Let's make it deeper than that. Not only losing, the inability to find a left tackle, the inability to find a quarterback until now. And Caleb's breaking 50-year-old records. Do you understand that?
Yes.
He's breaking records that were established in the 40s. Do you know how many quarterbacks have played for the Bears? And he's breaking records that were established in the 40s?
I think that I honestly think that they're not thinking about how the meaning of what that tradition is. It's like you want to sit here and say, oh, well, we have these amazing fans, but we are not giving our amazing fans what they deserve and what they require. We want a winning team. We don't want to keep paying all this daggone money that y'all are charging us to come sit here and see our teams lose or get to overtime and then drop the ball like they're
or have it blocked.
team.
Or have it
you
blocked.
know, it's like, we don't want that. And the tradition should be looked at again by the people up top and say, you know what, maybe we should start some traditions of our own. Because at some point in time, we either need a complete resurfacing of not just the team itself, but maybe the head too. And the only way that's going to happen is if we stop giving them our hard-earned money, because...
We talked about it earlier with the fact that this Bears fan base is, yes, the best fans in probably every sport, ever. Basically. I'll even say that as a Blackhawks fan. You know, I say the Hawks fans are the best, but Chicagoans as a whole, they're still putting up with this. I mean, and as Kimmy said, this organization is also, and there's a press conference that came out, I believe it was last year, Marcus, in which Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles came in and said, forget about tradition, throw it out the window, forget about history. Yes. This is a new organization. This is, and then what do when they get their backs up against the wall? They resort back to tradition because all of a sudden, this is the Bears have not been this traditional historic franchise that you think. They have one Super Bowl to show for it in their 100+ years. Of course, they have championships before it was a Super Bowl, but one Super Bowl to show for it. In 85, this is 2024. We're about to be in 2025. We're talking 40 years ago. The Bears were champions.
I remember.
There is no tradition. There is no, people want to come here because there is no.
I don't either, Mike. Don't feel bad.
There is no. You young whippersnappers.
Right.
Get off my lawn. There is no tradition here that makes people want to come here. Even for the Chicago Blackhawks. The only reasons that players want to come play for the Chicago Blackhawks is you get a chance to play with in Chicago, in this great city, and Connor Bedard. Yes, the Blackhawks have a storied franchise, but we're past the Cup years now. Kane and Taves are not here anymore. It's a different regime. It's a different organization.
Not to mention the scandal.
Okay, well, yeah, we don't even want to dive down into that.
I mean, right. If we're being honest,
this is the truth about Chicago sports. This is the truth about Chicago sports.
That's true.
No, it's on the rise.
Yeah, no.
But, we're talking.
That's the third time.
No, you're not wrong, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole that we'd have to get down to. This new Blackhawks regime, this organization is a very classy organization now, and they're not making those same mistakes that they made earlier. That doesn't absolve them from those mistakes, of course. Yeah. But those are the only things bringing players here. World-class organization, Connor Bedard, world-class city. For the Bears, what can you say? Get a chance to play with Caleb Williams and maybe a couple other cast and crew that are pretty great.
And
DJ Moore, Montez Sweat.
But you are a legend in this town if you win. Think about that.
If you win,
Brian Urlacher is submitted as a legend in this town.
Devin Hester.
Devin Hester is submitted. And they didn't even win the Super. So could you imagine if they had won it? They would be legends forever. The thing about it is if you do win with the Chicago Bears, you become a legend. And players know that. And one thing to most athletes is legacy. They want to be remembered. And if you can be remembered being a legend in this storied franchise, it carries weight for decades. Think about Dick Butkus, Gale Sayers, Sweetness. These guys are known throughout.
And these were guys, and the aforementioned Butkus and Sayers, they were on losing teams. Butkus never made the playoffs, and he was beloved.
Legend.
Let's think about baseball and even basketball.
Wait, do we have to?
Real quickly, yeah.
Dude,
can you imagine if the White Sox went out and said, the White Sox have been around longer than the Bears, Can you imagine if the White Sox came out and said, we don't care that we had a 121 loss season because we're a historic franchise. We're storied. And this is Chicago, a great city. Players want to come here. No, they don't, because you don't pay them. You don't give them any kind of hope for success. You don't give them anything else other than, well, you're coming to Chicago. What's to say they don't go up the road and play for the Cubs instead? Who also, if you take out the champ or even look before the 2020 or 2016 championship, 108 years of drought. Yes, the Ricketts spend a little bit more money than Jerry Reinsdorf does and the White Sox. However, what is bringing players to want to come play there either? Other than, okay, yes, you have historic Wrigley Field that's maybe a step up. But still, you're just toting the Chicago flag around going, oh, look at you could come play in this great city.
Do you want the difference between both, sports franchises?
I was just throwing it out there.
The fact that you could go to Wrigley Field and play in front of, let's say, 30,000 fans at Wrigley Field, as opposed to, what, 3,000 fans at Comiskey?
Well, there was a game where
I'm sorry, guaranteed rate?
Is that the name now?
There was a game where there was like 64 fans, but nobody's counting anymore at this point. But unless it's the lost column, if you look at the Bulls,
True.
Another thing too that they say, oh, people want to come and play for the Bulls because people internationally come to and they do to an extent. People internationally come to Chicago just to take pictures with the Jordan statue, and that's true. But Jordan was the 90s.
Yep.
What is going on with the current Bulls team that draws you here? You can wear the same crest as Michael Jordan. Yes. You might not get paid as much. You might have a losing season. You might make the play-ins with a losing record. Where's the future for this sport either, or for this team, for this organization? It's the same as the Bears. This is the worst Chicago sports has ever been. It is purgatory.
I cannot answer why they come to watch a Bulls game in person. But
dedicated fans again.
However,
Chicagoans.
The experience.
Packed house.
Yeah, it is an experience.
Packed house every night.
It is a packed house every night because even as shiatsui as the Bulls have been playing, they're still in top 5 in attendance.
Yep.
Which is mind-blowing.
I mean, have you been to a Bulls game lately? It is one of the funnest events you can attend. Yeah. It really is.
They're going for Benny the Bull.
Thank you. It's one of the funnest events you can attend.
I want to go for the dance numbers.
All right, settle down.
I heard that they're very well choreographed.
They're very well
what you want to go for.
Oh, mercy.
Watch out.
Kimmy throwing shots.
I went to school with a former Chicago lovable. She was on the squad a couple.
Holding out there, sir. What's going on here? We need to talk.
She was on the squad like 2 years ago, I think.
The Bulls have just
She worked
got
at the
3 more
Schaumburg
fans.
Boomers with me, not to tie it back to On the Rise.
We need to talk here off air, guy.
Back in high school, she worked
They just sold
Schaumburg
3 more
Boomers with me.
tickets.
Yeah. 4 if you count this whole room. Yeah.
Wow. All right, guys. You're listening to AM 1410 WRMN On the Rise. I'm your host, Derek Geyer, alongside with Mike Napolitano. In studio is Marcus Mack of The Truth About Chicago Sports. And doing our little bumps here is Kimbria Hopkins.
One more point I wanted to make as I mentioned that this is Chicago sports hell, basically, purgatory.
That's definitely it.
The Chicago coaches that have been fired in the last year.
Talk about them.
It's all of them, basically.
All of them.
Talk about it.
Let's go back to 2023. October 10th of 2023, the Chicago Red Stars, the women's soccer team, part ways with Chris Petruccielli. Then in November, after the season wrapped up, November 6th of 2023, the Cubs part ways with Ross, their head manager. Why do I want to call him Theo Ross? No, that's Theo Epstein. I'm messing up. Yeah, but Ross. Ross from the Cubs. What's his first name?
David.
David Ross. Oh, I couldn't get that. That's my bad. So they part ways
That's all
with
right.
him.
I know that you hate the Cubs.
I don't hate them.
No, we Sox fans do not hate the Cubs. We just don't watch you that much.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, Marcus, that's bullshit.
Now let's fast forward to 2024 as we got 2023 out of the way. So all within basically 365 days. Then you go to, and let's jump around here. Pedro Grifol was fired by the Chicago White
Good
Sox
night.
August 8th of 2024. Thank goodness. October 29th, the Chicago Fire part ways with Frank Klopas. September 27th of 2024, the Chicago Sky fired Teresa Weatherspoon. And, second most recently now, the Chicago Bears fire Matt Eberflus on November 29th after that blunder. And barely a week later, the Blackhawks fire head coach Luke Richardson. The only firing out of all of that I think was emotional for the GM, you heard Kyle Davidson. We didn't play that clip that came out after, but he did say, as a person and as a human being, Luke and his wife are great friends and you want them on your team. But Billy Donovan, you're the last man standing for the Bulls.
Craig Counsell.
The year ain't over yet, so.
Last man standing. Craig's a new guy. Hey, let's give a shout out. Let's give a shout out to another new guy, interim coach Thomas Brown. We'll see what he's got going on tomorrow.
Please save us, please.
He's looking to play with a little bit of violence. Let the past be the past. Go forward. No excuses. Accountability. All that fun stuff.
That's what it should be, my friends.
All right, wrapping up for On the Rise. I've been your host, Derek Geyer, alongside my co-host, Mike Napolitano. Thank you, Mr. Marcus Mack, for coming in studio to talk about the Chicago Bears and the rest of the sports franchises. He will be up next with The Truth About Chicago Sports. And Kimbria Hopkins, thank you for coming in.
It has been my pleasure.
Appreciate it. You guys have a great rest of your Saturday.
This is McGruff the Crime Dog, and I need you to help me take a bite out of crime. Counterfeit products